Assalamualaikum friends. I am a regular YouTube user and I was using YouTube casually and I got a video from Smile to Jannah titled as Ahmediya Qadiani versus Muslim, where the Ahmedi person gave his claims and the uncle listened humbly. But the Ahmedi quote too many things, and being a reader and a student, I know that these claims were false. So to deny that claims, I think I should go with a video. Before starting the video, we should know about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani a little bit of his life. He was born on 13th of February 1835. He was an Indian scholar. Died on 26th of May 1908. From 1864 to 1868, he worked as a clerk in Sialkot, where he came to contact with Christian people and whom he frequently engaged in a debate. After 1868, he returned to Qadian and he spent most of his time in reading, research, and many more things about Christians and Islam. And he was well known debater of Islam. As time passed, he began to engage more Christian missionaries, particularly in defending Islam against their criticism. He would often confront them in public debate, especially the ones based in the towns of Batala. Born in 1835 to a Rais family in Qadian, Ghulam Ahmad emerged as a writer and a debater of Islam. When he was just 40 years of his age, his father died. And around that time, he believed that God began to communicate with him. In 1886, certain leaders of Arya Samaj held discussion and debate with Ghulam Ahmad about the truthfulness of Islam and asked for a sign to prove that Islam was a living religion. In order to dedicate special prayers for this purpose and so as to seek further divine guidance, Ghulam Ahmad travelled to Hoshiarpur upon what he claimed was divine instruction. He performed a special practice known as Chilla Nashini. He travelled with 3 of his companions into the small 2-story house. He only left the house on Friday and used an abandoned mosque for Jummah. It is during this period that he declared God had given him the glad tidings of an illustrious son. In December 1888, Ahmad announced that God had ordained that his followers should enter into a bay'ah with him and pledge their alliance to him. In January 1889, he also published a pamphlet in which he laid out 10 conditions for the rest of his life to the ones who obeyed him. He claimed to have been divinely appointed as the promised Messiah and Mahdi. On 23rd March 1889, he founded the Ahmediya community by taking a pledge from 40 followers upon what he claimed was divine instruction, stipulating 10 conditions of initiation, an event that marked the establishment of Ahmediya movement. The formal method of joining the Ahmediya movement includes joining hands and reciting a pledge. Although physical contact was not always necessary, this method of alliance continued for the rest of his life and after his death by his successors. So, this will be enough about the Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. So now let's talk about the claims in the video.
And honestly and truthfully, the ulama at that time, the Sunni shuyukh at that time, they themselves acknowledged that no one can stand up to Christianity the way Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam can. No one.
They acknowledge that?
All of your
sorry, bro.
Batalvi Sahib, who was the biggest opponent of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam. In 1982, when Barahin al-Ahmediya, the first book written in the defense of Islam, came out, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad wrote that book. He said, never has a book such as this to this...
Bro, who's Batalvi Sahib? Come on, bro. I mean, do you know Khan Sahib?
This
do you know Khan Sahib?
Which Khan Sahib are we talking about?
You know the main Khan Sahib of the time.
Which Khan Sahib? You
He
can say
said the contrary to that.
Muhammad Hussein Butalvi is the guy I'm talking about. I don't know who you're talking about. Which
But
Khan?
I don't know who you're talking about. Who's Butalvi?
Muhammad Hussein Batalvi was one of the most prominent Sunni shuyukh at that time, and he acknowledged that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam, the book.
So what?
What I'm saying is that the people at the time realized this manner, this individual has
Bro, okay. Okay. Don't say people of the time. Say person of the time. Because that's one individual you've told me. And, you know, kudos to Batalvi and whoever he was. You know, I don't know him, so I can't comment on him. But
Maulana,
just because you've quoted one individual to me, my bro, you can't then extrapolate that to people. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know Abul Kalam Azad? Maulana Abul Kalam Azad.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
he wrote that the literature that the Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam has with regards to Tawheed cannot be found in anyone else's writings. Never. That Tawheed, that the literature.
Bro, but how can you talk about Tawheed when...
Yeah.
Okay, how do you define Tawheed?
The oneness of Allah. And I know you're going to bring up that quote, oh, he said he's the Ibn Allah. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. Do you know who? This is the same thing.
Bro, I'm just going to pause you there. You're glitching, yeah?
Yes.
Bro, you're glitching, and I'm not pressing anything. I'm just telling you that you're glitching at the moment, because if something happens to this connection, then people are going to start blaming me. Yeah? So I'm not touching the connection. I'm just telling you you're glitching, yeah?
Understood.
Okay, so yeah, tell me about the context of that verse then, about where you know what I was going to say.
Abul Kalam Azad, right? He talks himself. He says that no one has written better Tawheed, about Tawheed, than this individual, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam. Okay? And then Allama, who's the famous sha'ir? Allama iqbaL, right? Iqbal.
Yeah.
You've heard of iqbaL. He said that if you want to see the true Islam being practiced, then go to Qadian.
I mean, I've seen Iqbal on... Yeah, go on.
So why is he saying these things? Why are these ulama acknowledging that, okay, there's something happening?
In this small clip, he is talking about three peoples: Maulana Muhammad Hussein Batalvi, Allama Iqbal, and Abdul Kalam Azad. As we know two of them, so let's talk about the Batalvi Sahib first. The full name of Batalvi is Abu Sayyid Muhammad Hussain Batalvi. He was born in 1840 and died on 1920. He was a leading Ahl-Hadith religious scholar in Punjab during the late 19th and early 20th century. He was a student of Sayyid Nazir Hussain Dehlvi and one of the founder of the Jamaat-e-Ahl-Hadith alongside Sadiq Hasan Khan. Batalvi was the editor of the magazine ISHAT-US-SUNNAH. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who later claimed to be the Messiah and Mahdi, was a lifelong friend of Muhammad Hussain Batalvi. They had been attending the same teacher in childhood. Batalvi's father, Sheikh Rahim Bakhsh, also used to visit Qadian. When Ghulam Ahmad wrote his first book, Brahine Ahmediya, Batalvi put it in his magazine serially and wrote a quote.
In our opinion, from the point of view of the modern age, this book stands unique in the history of Islam. No book has ever been published like it in the past, and we cannot say anything about the future, which is known only to God. The perseverance of the author in the service of Islam, through his life, his energy, pen, tongue, and every form of activity is almost unprecedented amongst Muslims. This should not be taken as Asiatic exaggeration. We challenge anyone to show us the like of this book.
Batalvi's opinion of Ahmad changed in 1891, when Ahmad published his various spiritual claims and declared that Jesus, son of Mary, had died his natural death, and second coming was a metaphor, referring only to the coming of disciple of Muhammad who would be appointed to the spiritual station of Messiah. This prophecy, he claimed, had fulfilled in his very own person. This marked the end of lifelong friendship, and Batalvi turned into an arch enemy of Ahmad and his Ahmediya community in his later life. On 31st January 1891, Muhammad Hussain Batalvi wrote a letter to Ahmad asking him whether Ahmad had really claimed to be the promised Messiah Ahmed thought it sufficient to write only yes in answer because Muhammad Hussain had asked him to say yes or no. In his later life, Muhammad Hussain Batalvi took it for his life mission to undo whatever Ahmed intended to do. He organized a fatwa signed by hundreds of ulema, religious scholars, that Ahmed was an unbeliever or kafir. He wrote about his former friend in his magazine ISHAT-US-SUNNAH
that the Qadiani is a Dajjal of this time, a second Musaylama, perfidious, deceiver, cheat, liar and impostor, and that he is the enemy of the faith of Islam and all other heavenly faiths.
He also wrote this into the ISHAT-US-SUNNAH volume 6.
That Ahmed was a raving drunkard, intriguer, swindler, accursed, the one-eyed Dajjal, slave of silver and gold, whose revelation is nothing but a seminal discharge, shameless, the ringleader of sweepers and street vagabonds, dacoit, murderer, whose followers are scoundrels, villains, adulterers, and drunkards.
There is a case in the court of the district magistrate Gurdaspur in 1899 where Batalvi admitted to publish the following.
Had we been under Muslim rule, we would have given you, Ahmed, a proper reply. We would have at once cut off your head with a sword and made you a dead body.
In 1893, volume 7 of ISHAT-US-SUNNAH, he also states this.
His deception is proved by the fact that in his heart he considers it lawful to put an end to the authority of a non-Muslim government and to plunder its belongings. Therefore, it would not be proper on the part of the government to rely on him, and it would be necessary to be aware of him, otherwise such harm might be suffered at the hands of this Mahdi of Qadian as was experienced at the hands of the Sudan's Mahdi.
I think this is enough about the Batalvi. So the second person he mentioned is Allama Muhammad Iqbal. And when I started researching about Allama Muhammad Iqbal, I found different Twitter handles saying him Qadiani. Unfortunately, the person is claiming about Allama Muhammad Iqbal that if you want to see Islam alive in this age, you must visit Qadian. My whole research, I didn't get this in anywhere but in an article of Tribune.com. I only found it in a single article and not in any other books or articles I have read. You can get the link of the article in the description below. Now I am going to quote different articles of Allama Muhammad Iqbal, and these are all written in a book named Zinda Rood. This book is published by his son Dr. Javed Iqbal. You can get it and read it from the internet. A letter of Iqbal was published in Statesman on 10th of June 1935 titled The Muslim Attitude Toward the Ahmediya Movement, that stated British government should take administrative notice of differences in basic doctrine of Muslim and Ahmadis. The way Sikhs were not considered separate on administrative grounds from Hindus until 1990s. Iqbal also wrote an article under the title of Ahmadiyyat and Islam. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru responded in the favor of Ahmadis and wrote a couple of articles on the subject. Iqbal, on reply, wrote a letter to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru on June 12, 1936, in which he elaborated Muslims' point of view on Ahmadiyya movement and categorically stated, Ahmadis are traitors to both Islam and country. Allama Iqbal first tries to declare Ahmadis a separate community, but Iqbal's thoughts on Qadianiyat later transformed following a chain of events. Iqbal said,
I personally first doubted Ahmadi movement when a new prophethood was claimed, and that was considered greater and better than that of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and all the Muslims were declared infidels. Later on, my doubts transformed into complete mutiny when I myself heard a member of Ahmediya community blaspheming Prophet peace be upon him. The claims iqbaL was talking about are. Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Qadiani claimed that Muhammad peace be upon him could not publish Islam fully and I am sent in to complete it. Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Qadiani declared Muslims who do not follow his teachings as non-Muslims.
It was worth mentioning here that iqbaL didn't criticize the doctrine of Ahmadis on the subject of end of prophethood for the first time in 1935. In fact, he had been refuting their doctrine for many years before. The only difference was he didn't opt for debates torn until 1935. I didn't get too many things about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, but during my research I got a quote of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad on the website of Ahmadiyya movement, and there that quote states this:
You inquire which one of the two Ahmadi groups follows the true path, the Qadian group or the Lahore one. In my opinion, neither is on the true and right path.
This is all for this video. Further section will be discussed in another video.